Hey guys, welcome back to Mission About Crochet, and today I'm going to tell you about what I've learned in the past week about yarn bombing. Let's get into it. Hey, it's me, Bree. I want to say thanks for being here, and I am found a new passion. I am super excited about yarn bombing. And the more I learn about it, the more I think that this could be like something I could really enjoy. And it's a way to share my crochet with people in a whole new way. In the past, I've shared my crochet with people by making gifts, like blankets for a baby shower, or, loveys, or, just sharing my crochet on, TikTok and, what I wore that day. There's so many ways to share your crochet, and I feel like yarn bombing could be a new great way for me to share my crochet with people. So let's talk a little bit about yarn bombing, about maybe like some of the do's, don'ts, and let's start with what is it. Yarn bombing is when you take yarn and create some kind of fiber art, a fabric, or something, beautiful made out of yarn, or I guess other kind of fiber, and you use it to make artwork that's kind of like graffiti. So some examples that I've seen that I love are, I saw somebody make like this beautiful mural and they hung it on like the side of a fence, which I thought was really cool. And I saw somebody else crochet like these dinosaur feet that they put on like where the legs came down on a post office box. I saw people covering things like benches with yarn. And one of the other things I saw over the weekend was, if you've ever seen the show Two Broke Girls, I have only seen like a few episodes here and there, like while visiting other people. It's not a show I've gotten like deep into, but I did sit down and watch the entire episode of season 4, episode 4, and they had yarn bombing in it, which I just loved. I'm not going to give the whole episode away, but one of the examples from the show was there was a bike that had been sitting for a long time in front of their cupcake shop, and somebody had come along and crocheted like these pieces that covered the wheels and all the bars, and I thought that was so cool. And it was a nice way to like kind of give back, because my understanding of how yarn bombing really has become a thing was in like kind of sterile, kind of cold looking areas in cities where all you saw was like gray and like no trees, no greenery, no color. People were like crocheting pieces and then covering like different things in that area to beautify it. And that's what from what my takeaway on what yarn bombing is, it's about beautification. It's about bringing happiness and joy to people. And of course, shining a light onto knit and crochet. And I just think that is such a positive like message. It's a positive thing that, that anybody who's crocheting or knitting could do to give back. So there's a few things I learned about yarn bombing. I haven't learned everything. In fact, I'm actually waiting for a book from Amazon that's about yarn bombing, and I'm going to have a book review coming up on that for next week's video to share about. I'll have an unboxing, and I'll share about the book. The book I ordered is Crochet with London K, which is supposed to be all about yarn bombing. And like, since I've started like looking at some of her work and stuff, it's pretty amazing. So if you want to check out her socials, I highly suggest it. In fact, I'll drop her Instagram in the description if you want to go check out any of her work. There was this piece that she did in like Times Square that was humongous and just unbelievable. The idea of like people coming together and crocheting something like that just blew my mind. So I highly suggest that you go check out her Instagram if you want to see some amazing yarn bombing. Let's talk more about some of the do's and don'ts I've learned so far about yarn bombing. Now, one of the biggest things I learned, and like one of my biggest takeaways, is yarn bombing is a positive thing, but yet considered illegal because it is like graffiti. It could be seen as, damaging property or like changing somebody's property. I'm not a legal expert. I can't give you legal advice. I'm not going to tell you to go out and yarn bomb everything in sight. I'm saying if you're thinking about doing yarn bombing, use some common sense, use some caution, be safe, be smart. Let's talk about some things to take in consideration if you're thinking about yarn bombing. Yes, it's illegal. Also, you need to think about what you're going to yarn bomb and where it's at. Meaning, like, what, where, as in, is this somewhere that's safe? I mean, I don't want to hear reading a news story or hear something about somebody making this beautiful piece of, artwork and then going to hang on the side of a viaduct and falling off and going splat. You know what I mean? Like, you got to use some common sense. You got to be cautious. You don't want to get, you don't want it to be the last thing you make. Let's, say it that way. I think it's important. Some other things I've learned is it's important not to cover up other people's work. For example, there are like some cheetahs that are downtown in the city my parents live in. I thought, oh, it'd be really like cool to like if somebody would have had like crocheted like little jackets for the cheetahs. And I think like something like that could be cool. Once again, probably illegal. But another artist had created those statues. Now, would I totally cover them up so you can't see them anymore? Like, would I make a giant mural and hang it in front of them? No, because I'm not going to cover up somebody else's artwork. Now, I might add to it. I've seen like people crochet, like a little hat or scarves and put on statues during the wintertime. I mean, that's a form of yarn bombing too. I mean, it's not just creating like a giant, beautiful piece of artwork. It can be something small, like that I mentioned earlier, like the little crocheted feet that are attached to the bottom of a post office box. That's an example of, adding to something. But don't be crocheting and covering up the entire, post office box, because people still need to put their mail in it. You still need to be able to open the little door to get the mail out. But crocheting something, small that could be, attached and can be attached and taken off very easily, I think those are smarter choices. Still, like I said, not encouraging people to do anything that's illegal. Now, should you go out and crochet something like a beautiful piece to put over a fire hydrant? No. And if that fire hydrant needs to be accessed, if there's a reason that they need it, they don't need it, in 10 minutes after they get your yarn off of it. They need it now, because every second counts when it comes to fires. So that would be something like, is like illegal times 2, it feels like to me. And let me say this again, this is not legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know, every law. I only know how I'm seeing things from my perspective. I'm not going to crochet something to put over a fire hydrant because that could be unsafe. Just like I wouldn't crochet something that would be like attached to the ground where somebody could like slip and fall. Like I'm not going to crochet and cover up like some stairs and have like loose fabric that somebody could go ahead and trip and fall. It's a matter of, being thoughtful of other people. Don't cover up people's work. Don't put this yarn bombing stuff in a place that, somebody could get hurt. Or it could, cause some kind of issue. Like, I mean, some things I feel like go without saying. Like, you're not going to crochet, something to put over, like, a car window. It might look cool. You might not have to look out, that side window as much, as like you do your windshield. But still not a good idea because it's not safe. I think it's also a cool idea, to put tags on your work and claim your work. This way, for one, if somebody has an issue with it, they can contact you and ask you to remove it. Also, they can, check out your other social medias. They can see your other work. It's also a good idea because in this way, maybe it'll discourage somebody from stealing it. Because that seems to be a very common thing, I guess, too. Like, I didn't realize that would be part of it, that you might crochet something beautiful, you put it on this bench, and then somebody comes along and is like, oh, yeah, I like that, and take it. Or you might, like, crochet, like a hat and, like, this hat and scarf set that's super cute. You put it on the statue, and then somebody says, yeah, I could dig it, and takes it. Like, if you put it out there, keep in mind you may not get it back. Or, you may get in trouble for putting it out there because, somebody doesn't like it. I mean, perfect example, I saw this girl And she lived in an apartment, and the sidewalk, she was like drawing on the sidewalk with chalk. Beautiful artwork, beautiful artwork. And her, her landlord said it was fine. He didn't care. But then his wife decided that she thought it was disrespectful to the property. And technically, I mean, if she was drawing on like the sidewalk, it wasn't any, they didn't own the sidewalk, her landlord didn't, but she got in trouble for that. And I mean, even though what she was doing was not malicious intent, she was just trying to share artwork with people. It was one of those things where she got in trouble and it offended somebody. Even though, I mean, what the things I saw her making were like characters from Pokemon and, characters that people and children could love and enjoy seeing. But somebody didn't like it, and it turned out to be quite the to-do. It's not my story to tell. It's a long story. I don't have all the details. But I mean, it's just an example of, just because it's beautiful and it makes things, look pretty, not everybody's going to see it that way. It's important that you check up on your artwork and take it down at, the appropriate time. Like after it's served its purpose, or maybe it's, worn out, or it's breaking down, it doesn't look so good anymore, or maybe it just needs to be taken down, cleaned, and then put back out. So those are all things I've learned so far to take into consideration. And I think I'm gonna document my journey with yarn bombing over the next couple of weeks. So if you saw my previous video, I was talking about how I've got a couple things I need to finish first. So I'm still working on that. I swear, I feel like the sweater I'm working on right now is like the sweater that never ends. I mean, you've heard like the song that never ends. This feels like the sweater that never ends. And I'm getting so close. It's just at this point, I'm just antsy to get it done. I mean, I've been working on it consistently, like every day, but sweaters take a long time. And this is not like a little sweater, and it's not for a little person. It's a very large sweater, and it's to fit a very large person, So it's going to take a minute. As soon as I get that done, I can really dig deeper into yarn bombing. But since I ordered the book on Amazon by London K, and I'll drop a link in the description too, so in case you're interested in the book, you can get it too. When I'm not crocheting, I'm gonna be reading that book and learn more about yarn bombing so that I can share with you more about my journey, what I end up designing, where I end up putting it, because I've got a few different ideas, but I haven't settled on anything yet because I'm still kind of new to the whole yarn bombing. And like I said, today the stuff I've shared with you is not legal advice by any means. It's just some of the things I've read so far and I've learned, and I just wanted to throw it out there to, just share a little bit more than I knew a week before. At this point, I feel like I'm starting to ramble. So until next week, take care.